I won $8. 7 million in the lottery and my family had no idea. They didn't, until I finally told them. And when I did, I made one thing painfully clear: they weren't getting a single cent. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. You can call me cold if you want, but when you've grown up as the designated fixer, the dependable one, the human ATM, you learn that blood can be an invoice. I learned that the hard way in suburban Ohio, where affection felt like currency and I was always paying. On our street every lawn was edged, every smile rehearsed, and every favor came with a ledger you couldn't see until it was due. My mother ran the house like a prim queen from a warped fairy tale, smiles that meant leverage, warmth that arrived only when there was something to collect. My father nodded along, kept the peace, and called that love. My sister, Maya, 3 years younger, was the investment that never had to earn interest. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Her room was bigger, her birthday parties louder, her mistakes wiped clean with a fond sigh. I was the one who would figure it out. I did figure it out: 2 jobs through college, while Maya partied through state school on our parents' dime. I learned early that fairness wasn't a rule in our house, it was a story we told when guests were listening. When I graduated with honors and landed a marketing job, my mother didn't say congratulations. She asked if I could help with Maya's credit card debt, $15,000 blown on clothes and Miami weekends with her sorority friends. I was 23, barely upright on my own 2 feet, but I paid it because that's what good daughters do, right? I can still feel the weight of that first offer letter in my hands, the paper warm from the printer like proof that my nights hadn't been wasted. Then came the car. Maya totaled her Honda while texting, and I co-signed for her new SUV because her credit was dust. Then the rent for her first apartment when the jobs wouldn't stick. Then bail money for her boyfriend. The meter never stopped running. I signed with a knot in my stomach, the pen carving a small surrender into the page. Holidays became shakedowns wrapped in linen napkins. At Thanksgiving, my mother would pull me aside with that syrupy tone and a soft hand on my arm. At Christmas, my father would mention Maya was struggling again. Sunday dinners turned into tactical exercises where I rehearsed how to say no, and still handed over my card. I'd practice polite boundaries in the mirror and watch them dissolve at the table like sugar in hot tea. She'd pass the mashed potatoes and remind me that family takes care of family, that young people have it hard. I wanted to say I'd eaten ramen to make rent, worked overnight shifts and full course loads, clawed my way to stable, and nobody floated me anything. But any pushback was dramatic, ungrateful, selfish, so I swallowed it. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. By 29, I'd given them over $60,000, earned dollar by earned dollar, surrendered in little guilt-dusted pieces. Not once did anyone ask if I could afford it. Not once did anyone say thank you. I was the family ATM, and they never checked the balance. It's a strange thing to realize your generosity has become invisible, like paying a bill no one else believes exists. Then a Tuesday in March rerouted my life. I stopped for gas on the way home, grabbed a coffee, and on impulse bought a Powerball ticket. The jackpot had rolled to $200 million. I never played. I thought it was silly. But 3 days later, in my car on my lunch break, I checked the numbers, and all 6 matched. The fluorescent lights hummed, the coffee tasted burnt, it felt like any other errand on any other day, which is how big moments like to hide. After taxes and the lump sum, it worked out to about $8. 7 million. My hand shook. I sat in that parked car for 45 minutes listening to my breath and the click of the cooling engine. My first reflex, wired into me since childhood, was to call my mother. Her contact was open. My thumb hovered. I stared at my reflection in the dark screen of the dash, looking for some visible difference and finding only the same tired eyes. Then I pictured the script. The gasp, the praise, and within minutes the list: Maya needs a house, Maya needs a car, Maya's loans, you should help us retire, you owe us. My miracle would turn into a ledger. I did not call. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Instead, I booked an appointment with a lottery attorney. Adriana Cole specialized in sudden wealth clients, and she said the thing that snapped me awake: most lottery winners who go broke don't lose it to bad investments, they lose it to family and friends who think they're entitled. Her advice: tell no one for at least 6 months and just watch. I wrote her words down in a notebook because I knew my heart would try to forget them the second Love walked into the room wearing my mother's face. So I watched. I kept working my job, kept my modest apartment, kept driving my 7-year-old Toyota. To everyone else, nothing changed. Inside me, everything did. I started looking at my family like a scientist with a clipboard. It was like putting on noise-canceling headphones. Suddenly the patterns were crisp, the subtext loud. At my mother's birthday dinner in April, she cornered me by the desserts and mentioned Maya's rent. I gave her $200 and saw the warmth flick on like a motion sensor light, and shut off the second the transaction ended. Data point recorded. Her smile had the sheen of a salesperson's. I'd missed that before. Maya got engaged in May to a guy she'd been dating 4 months. Engagement party at my parents' place, of course. She leaned in, champagne fizz on her breath, and asked me to chip in for the wedding, $5,000, like it was a casual favor. When I hesitated, she rolled her eyes and said we'd talk later. The ring flashed like a promise I knew I'd be asked to underwrite. Thanksgiving was the real lab test. My mother gave a toast about family being the greatest blessing, about supporting one another, her gaze landing on me like a nudge. Maya joked about someday buying a house, if only that down payment weren't so impossible. The table laughed knowingly. I ate my turkey and kept taking notes. I could practically hear a calculator clicking beneath the tablecloth. The pattern was obvious. They loved what I provided, not me. Telling them now would be a disaster. So I stayed quiet and kept planning. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. 9 months after my win, on a cold January morning, my mother called shaking. Stage 3 breast cancer, she said. Surgery needed immediately. Insurance wouldn't cover everything. She needed $30,000. She was dying. Please help. The cold made everything feel fragile, like one wrong move might shatter the day. My stomach knotted. The urge to wire the money was instant and loud. But something snagged, maybe the too clean round number, maybe 9 months of observation sharpening my instincts. I told her I'd call back, then phoned her doctor's office. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. I explained who I was. The receptionist put me on hold, returned, and gently told me my mother had been in 2 weeks earlier for a routine checkup. Everything was fine. No diagnosis. No surgery. No cancer. I held my breath through the hold music, a thin, tinny river carrying me toward an answer I didn't want. I sat with that for 3 hours and let the storm cycle through: disbelief, rage, grief, then clarity. This was who she was when money was on the table. And I was done. There's a grief for the mother you needed and never had, and it arrives without flowers or casseroles. I called her back and said I'd spoken to her doctor. Silence stretched. Then came the tears, the backtracking, the new story: she'd misunderstood, she was just worried about bills. I was cruel to fact-check my own mother. I told her I would not be giving her any more money. Not now. Not ever. The ATM was closed. The steadiness in my voice felt borrowed from a version of me that had been waiting years to speak. She cried, then snapped into fury: how dare I? My father took the phone to ask why I always made things difficult, why I couldn't just help, why I was tearing the family apart. I hung up. They called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. I remember details I used to skip over: the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. 3 weeks later, Maya texted. Coffee, just us, sisters. Against my better judgment, I went. We met at Starbucks. She ordered an expensive latte and a pastry and didn't offer to pay for mine. Then she got to the point: she and her fiancé wanted to buy a house. They needed help with the down payment, $200,000. Said it like she was borrowing a sweater. Hope is stubborn, it makes you show up to lose one more time. I looked at her, really looked. 26, never held a job longer than a year, never paid her own bills, never apologized for the money I'd already given. And here she was asking for $200,000 with a straight face. I said, no. Just, no. Entitlement wears gloss and soft sweaters, it never thinks it's unreasonable. Her expression flipped like a card. The sweetness evaporated, and the entitlement stepped forward. I was selfish, she said. I'd always had it easier. I'd always been mom and dad's favorite, an absurd joke, but she believed it. I was jealous of her engagement, bitter, lonely. I let her run it out, left $20 on the table, and walked away. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. 2 days later, my parents called an emergency family meeting. I almost didn't go. Curiosity won. I walked into my childhood living room and found an intervention-style setup, my parents on the couch, Maya in the armchair, all of them disappointed, determined, rehearsed. Even the furniture looked choreographed, like it had practiced facing me. My mother started in, I was cruel, I was tearing us apart, Maya just needed help. My father followed with sacrifice and duty, they'd always been there for me, so why wouldn't I be there now? Maya cried on cue. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. I listened to the whole performance and asked a simple question, how much money have I given this family? No one answered, so I did. $63,000. And what had I received back? Not cash, just the bare minimum love with conditions. Nothing unconditional. The room went quiet. Their version of love sounded like a contract I had somehow failed to sign. Then my mother played her last card. If I wouldn't help my sister, if I wouldn't be part of this family properly, then maybe I wasn't their daughter at all. That sentence didn't land like a threat, it landed like a key turning in a lock I'd been rattling since childhood. Something in me let go. I said, fine. If those are the terms of being your daughter, then I'm not your daughter. The shouting started. I felt nothing but relief. I let it roll for 5 minutes. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Then I said 7 words that changed the temperature of the room. I won $8. 7 million in the lottery. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Silence, like a plug pulled from the wall. My mother asked me to repeat it. I did. I'd won 10 months ago. I'd kept it secret on purpose. I'd watched. I'd tested. They'd failed, and not gently. I could hear the refrigerator hum in the kitchen, ordinary and relentless. Maya's face moved from confusion to calculation in seconds. She laughed a little, airy and bright, and said this changed everything. She began listing amounts, the down payment, the wedding, furniture, a new car, maybe a monthly allowance. My mother joined in, tears gone, talking retirement, future medical bills, the lake house they'd always wanted. My father nodded along, wish list blooming in his eyes. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. I let them talk. I let them show me who they were when they thought the vault door had swung open. People tell you who they are when they think you're a solution. Then I told them the truth, not a dollar. Not $1. The money is mine. After the fake cancer call, after the entitled asks, after a lifetime of being used, you have shown me exactly how you value me. And I'm done paying for a place in this family. Saying it out loud felt like setting down a backpack I'd been carrying for miles. The reaction was volcanic. My mother screamed that the money belonged to the family, that I had a moral obligation, that I was ungrateful. Maya threw names at me and said she hoped I'd die alone with my money. My father tried guilt, roof, food, childhood, as if basic parenting accrued interest I could never finish paying. The words weren't new, they were the same old knives with sharper handles. I stood up, told them they wouldn't hear from me again, and walked out. My phone started ringing before I reached my car. Texts poured in, apologies, threats, bargaining. I blocked them. Then the extended relatives started, the flying monkeys, suddenly passionate about unity. I blocked them, too. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Within 48 hours, Adriana Cole had cease and desist letters out to the worst offenders. I changed my number and email, shut down social media. When my mother escalated to pounding on my apartment door and leaving notes calling me evil and cursed, I filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it. 3 months later, I moved to a different city. Boundaries aren't rude, they're reins you put on a runaway wagon. With my financial team, I locked my estate plan so tight it clicked. If anything happens to me, my money goes to charities. My biological family is explicitly excluded. That's not spite, it's clarity. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. Here's what I actually did with the money, which matters more. I set up an anonymous scholarship for first-generation college students who work multiple jobs. I paid off medical debt for 3 families drowning under real diagnoses. I helped a single mother secure a deposit on a safe apartment. I funded domestic violence shelters, food banks, literacy programs. Quiet good doesn't trend, but it changes the air in a room. The money did good. Just not for people who believed they were owed because we share DNA. I remember details I used to skip over, the weight of keys in my hand, the way silence can feel heavy when love isn't in the room. A year has passed. I have no relationship with my biological family. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes, conditioning is sticky. Then I remember the fake cancer. I remember Maya's casual demands. I remember 30 years of being valued for what I could provide, and the guilt evaporates. Healing is slow, almost boring, no montage, just mornings that don't hurt. I built a life around people who like me for me. I wake up without dread. I answer my phone without flinching. The money didn't buy my happiness. The boundaries did. Peace doesn't make a sound, it's the absence of alarms in your chest. If you've dealt with toxic family or wrestled with boundaries, tell me your story. What would you have done? Subscribe for more real stories about family drama and choosing your own path. Your peace matters more than their expectations. You're allowed to choose a smaller circle with kinder walls.